Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I have a good friend of mine on, Mr. Kevin Gardner, that was the author of this book right here. And I've got to say, if you have not purchased this book and read it, I know when I got a hold of this book, I was missing a few things that it helped me change things. And I'm going to just read the title real quick before I turn this all over to Kevin. So, this book is called Change Your Thinking, Ignite Your Life, and What Are You Telling Yourself? That title is so true to this book and so powerful. And if you haven't read it, please do so because it will do just that. And it reminds you, what are you telling yourself? And it's so important. So, Kevin, my friend, take it away. You have an amazing bio, you have an amazing background, and you're an author.
That is true. And it was something that, at one point I doubted would ever happen, but I proved to myself that if you put a plan in place, follow that plan, that you can achieve whatever you want to achieve. Right. And, that's part of the book title. What are you telling yourself? But it's not only what are you telling yourself about yourself, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
at one point I was telling myself, oh, I probably can't do that. And then I changed that to, well, why not? You can do that. And I did it. So I never did it while I was telling myself, oh, you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it. But as soon as I flipped the script, right, and looked at it as, wait a minute here, why can't I? And
Right.
I put together a plan, then I did it, and I think the same thing holds true with anybody for virtually anything. Now, I can't flip the script and say, I'm going to be an NBA basketball star. I mean, there are certain things that are not realistic, but, certainly there are a whole lot of things that I have discovered I can do, and I've seen other people do when they became confident in themselves to do it and put together a plan to do it. So
Right.
that's what the book's really about is have faith in yourself, put together a plan, and then, make sure that plan becomes a habit. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
had to put it down on my to-do list every day. Book, book, book. And I don't know why I get this great satisfaction off crossing things off my to-do list. It makes me feel like I've achieved things that day.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started putting book down, even if I spent 15 to 30 to an hour writing, I was still making progress. I could, at the end of that day, say I'm closer to my goal than I was at the start of the day. And that's
I
really
think
my
that
objective every day, right? I just want
Yeah.
to make progress. It doesn't have to be huge progress, but if I read something every day, I've made progress because I've learned something.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's so true because, realizing that is just a superpower because, all these times we think about all these tasks we got to do. And we think about, all these things. And I think we just get bogged down on it. But by putting it on your calendar, I've always heard the statement, show me your calendar, I can show you your outcome. Well, you had set a goal of getting this book accomplished. And every day that you mark that task off, you are one step closer. Maybe that was 6 words or 6 pages, you had wrote in that book, and I'm sure that you probably wrote 2 or 3 books to actually condense down to one good book. So I know it because I'm writing a book right now myself. And I know that I'm throwing pages in the trash because I write so much and then I'm like, no, that doesn't fit, or maybe it's a different chapter. So go into that a little bit if you would care to talk about during the writing phase. Like, you probably dealt with a lot of things, maybe even some imposter syndrome. There was probably certain things that you were starting to tell yourself, am I really supposed to do this?
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mention that, Eddie, because I have a good friend I went to college with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the time that I got serious about writing this book, he had just published his second one. Okay. His
Okay.
name's Todd Saylor. He's got this whole brand called Wired Differently, right? And he's got several other books, and he's become a public speaker. He ran successful businesses. but he and I were on the same floor in college, right? The same dorm room or dorm floor. And so we've stayed in touch, hit and miss over the years. And there's one thing I say in the book that is, you don't know what you don't know. So keep learning, right?
Mm-hmm.
I knew I didn't know how to write a book, but I also knew I had a resource who had not only written one, but written two books.
Uh-huh.
And so I used that resource. I said, Todd, I called him up. I'm like, Todd, I've decided I'm going to write a book. And I'll tell you what he said. I'll tell you what he thought later, because he told me what he thought. But he told me, I said, how did you do it? Walk me through. And he told me, he goes, look, he goes, I had some ideas. Then I decided on what the book should look like. So I started with a table of contents, and then I filled in as it went, and I just made adjustments as I went, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, I had some content, right? I'd been putting content away for years, because in the back of my mind, I wanted to do this, but in the front of my mind, there was a thing saying, "Well, you can't do that. You're not an
Right.
author," you
Right.
know. So the back of my mind saying, "Well, don't give up on it. Go ahead and just keep these ideas." So I took all these ideas and I kind of labeled them as to how they would fit, and sorted them out. I came up with the table of contents, and then I put these things in the table of contents, and then I expanded on it as I went, right? So I didn't exactly follow, I adapted it to me, but he was there to give me the guidance because he knew what I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I was smart enough to accept the fact that I didn't know it, and he did. So let me check with him. Now I will tell you, and I don't save very many voicemails for a long period of time. I've got one from my son when he was like 4 years old, wishing me a happy birthday, and another one from my son when he was like 6 or 8, wishing me a happy Father's Day. And about
Mm-hmm.
the only other one I have is one from Todd, because Todd called me after it was published, and he goes, I am so proud of you. He goes, you won't believe how many people tell me, oh, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book. He goes, I have to act like, oh, that's great. Wait, go get them. But he goes, honestly, maybe 1 out of 100 who tells me
Yeah.
that actually does it. And he's like, congratulations, you're that guy. You're that 1 out of 100 that actually saw it through. And then he took it a step further and said, in the back of my mind, I kind of figured if anybody was going to do it, it was going to be you. So, it was a great, and I've saved that voicemail to this day. And
Yeah.
anytime, we talk about this a lot, Eddie. I know that, is like, keep that momentum going, keep that positive going. And sometimes you get where your momentum's dropping a little bit and you need a boost.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, when I need a boost, sometimes I'll play that voicemail from Todd, because he, at that point, is giving me that boost of confidence that maybe I might be lacking in myself at that moment.
That is.
You got to use those tools, because bad momentum just feeds bad momentum.
Yeah. Well,
And
misery likes pain, right?
yeah,
Misery likes company, and that's the thing is, man, that is so powerful. That hit because, that is so true that we're totally capable. Like everything is in order. We have the education, we've got all these things, but there's just some days we just get up and we just can't hit our stride. It's just like jogging or something. We just can't get that stride, and that little boost of momentum of someone else's voice can be life changing. And that's one reason that I have continued to do this podcast and do YouTube and all the things I'm doing, because I have found so many people that have found me in a grocery store or in a conference or something like that that has never commented on my channel or has never personally told me or even liked my post that said, I'm so happy that you keep posting and keep doing the recordings you're doing because it helps.
yeah.
So that other person may not know how many times you listen to that voicemail, but it's amazing. And I can't thank you enough for what you just said here, because it is so true that some of us just need that boost, that little bit of momentum to go out here and be great and do
Well,
great things.
it gets back to starting with a full tank, right? So
Right.
the first few things I do in the morning after I feed the dog and let the dog out, right, and get my coffee, is I read my daily book. It's just a one page, and it's just kind of like, and then I exchange gratitudes, right? So I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous. I've been sober for a little while now, and I've got guys who I sponsor. And one of the requirements is every morning I want them to send me something they're grateful for. It can be running water. It can be
Yeah.
electricity. It can be for not being homeless. It can be for their job. It can be for anything, but I just want them to start the day in gratitude, right? I want to fill that tank up. And so I get theirs. And then in exchange, I've got 7 guys currently actively doing this. I send them each a gratitude that I have, and it's a different one for every single guy. I seldom send the same one to any of them twice, in the same day. There have been a couple of exceptions. When my dad went through surgery and it came out very well, that was my gratitude to everybody, and certain things like that. But for the most part, and that fills my tank with gratitude. So before I'm even at my desk dealing with the day, I'm filling the tank with gratitude that's going to get me through the day. And I'll admit it, this morning I had a couple of things. As soon as I got to my desk, it was like, oh no, that was supposed to happen. This was supposed to happen. It's stuff that's going to, and then the Facebook hacker outage or whatever, right? So, I
Yeah.
mean, there was a bunch of different things today that were just like, oh, no, as I'm trying to change my Facebook password 12 times and you can't get in or whatever. So I'm just kind of getting frustrated and all that. And then I was like looking at my schedule. I'm like, oh man, I've got 2 things to look forward to today. I get to talk to Eddie, and I know that's going to be upbeat and positive. And
Yeah.
I'm going to the Cavs Celtics game tonight. So
Oh, wow.
I've got good stuff in my life.
Yeah.
Why am I worrying about this other little stuff? And
Yeah.
so had my tank not been full at that point and just needed a little topping off, who
Hmm.
knows where that momentum would have taken me.
Right.
But I was already operating from a point of positive momentum for the day. And then a little bit of negative came in, but it was quickly taken away by some of these other tools and positive momentum things. And now, man, I'm jacked because I love talking to you, man. It's always so
Yeah.
positive and all, everything like that. It's awesome. And,
Yeah.
then I'm going to go back, do a little bit more work. And I'm taking one of my guys that I sponsor tonight, who unfortunately is a Celtics fan. I'm a Cavs fan,
Oh,
but
man.
I'm taking him to the game tonight. So
Yeah.
if Celtics leave, I'm leaving him down there with enough money for him.
That'd be great. Oh,
It's just,
man.
it's just
Yeah.
great. Life has so much enjoyment in it if
Yeah.
you look for it.
I'm going to tell a little bit of a story for a second. I kind of felt bad, but I didn't. I had an encounter with a gentleman outside of a restaurant one time that was, it was getting ready to open. And I always talk to people, when we met, we immediately started having a conversation like we knew each other for 50 years. And, this gentleman was standing in front of this restaurant and he was kind of kicking rocks, he just really down in the dumps. I had seen him a few times going in the restaurant, and he was always that just really down. Almost if you got close enough to him, like you kind of come down with your mood too, that kind
Yeah,
of person.
yeah,
And I said, "How you doing today, sir?" Just real upbeat. And he goes, not worth a dang." And I said, "Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that." I said, "Everything okay?" He goes, "Yep." Yeah, I said, "Someone pass away?" He goes, "No, just don't even want to live life no more." And I said, "Wow." I said, "Okay, well, I don't know why, but it come into me, and I just kind of let loose." And uh, it was a good experience afterwards. But I said, "Man, do I have permission to be a direct with you right now? Because that's a piss poor way to look at something." And he goes, "What?" And I said, "You woke up today. You're standing here on your own 2 legs. You're breathing your own air without an oxygen tank. You're getting ready to walk in this restaurant and pay for your own food, I would imagine." I said, "What more could you ask for?" I said, you know how many people would give anything to stand where you're standing right now with enough money that you can go in here and buy your own breakfast? That's a little sick in your answer with me. And I would hope that you can start to change that, because a lot of people don't even have that. And since that day, that gentleman has said, "Hey, Eddie, how are you, man?" And I'm doing great today. He's just been a totally changed, positive person. But I don't know what it was, but I guess I overall I impacted that person to really think about things differently, because he was not happy that he woke up that day. He was
Yeah.
not happy that he was on his own two legs. He was definitely not happy that he could pay for his own breakfast. And I think that that is terrible when people can't be satisfied with the things that most of us don't have.
Right.
There's so many people out there in a wheelchair that would love to stand on their own two legs. There's people that would love to buy their own breakfast.
You're absolutely right. I mean, my dad, as I alluded to, came down with cancer, and when I told some people, they're like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." I said, if he's got to have it, he's got to have it. He's got it. There's nothing I can do about that. We live near Cleveland, Ohio, by the Cleveland Clinic, which is a world-renowned resource for care. People
Yeah.
come from all over the world to come to Cleveland Clinic, which we can drive to in about 30 to 45 minutes. I said, he's in the right place to
Mm-hmm.
deal with this. I would be very sorrowful if he was living in the backwoods of some place and hadn't even had it detected and there was no hope, right?
Right.
So, I mean, do I wish he didn't have it? Of course I do.
Well,
But
yeah.
if he has to, and as his doctor said, man, you live over 80, you're gonna, shit's gonna start breaking down,
Yeah.
And but we're here where we have the best opportunity to treat it. That's a blessing. That's a
Yes.
gratitude.
Yes. So much. So one thing I want to get to is in this book, you talk about your daily meditation practices
Hmm.
and the things that you were doing that started to change things. And, when I finished this book, I went on a direction. I got on Google Docs and I wrote out my my daily mantra meditation practices. And I wrote out the things that I'm thankful for and all these things. And I started to really practice that. And I even went as far as doing an Asana task. So Asana is a kind of accountability platform, like a calendar where you can actually check off boxes, because I also like to see things completed.
Yep.
So I actually put those things in there as things that I'm supposed to complete every day. And, my very first one is saying thank you, just to say thank you. Thank you, I'm alive. Thank you, I'm awake. Thank you, I got one more day to just go out here and do great things. And the next one is a healthy breakfast. I care about my health a lot. And then 30 minutes of education. I'm always in a book, in a podcast or in a audiobook, something. I'm gaining education.
Hmm.
I pray. 30 minutes of exercise. So these are like the daily things that are reoccurring for me every single day. Every day I get up, just 1, 2, 3, 4. And I don't always, just like in your book here, I always couldn't do that in the morning. So, I had to sometimes split that out, but I always make time. If my calendar's slammed full, meeting after meeting, well, I got to step out for a minute,
Yeah.
and I'm going to go do that,
Yep.
because
You're
you can't
filling
pour from an empty cup.
you're filling your tank from the beginning, and then throughout the day you're topping it off as you need to.
Right.
So yeah, my life has changed since I started doing that. It really has. And the whole thing about what you tell yourself about yourself too. I mean, hey, if you don't have nice things to say about yourself, then who should, right?
Right. Right. So true. So, you went over your daily mantra in this book, and I thought that was extremely powerful. Is there anything you would share with the audience on ways that you came up with that would be helpful?
It was just a process. It was like anything else. I made process, right? I made progress. And, um, I read this book a while ago. I mean, years ago. It was called A Happy Pocket Full of Money. And
Yeah.
at the bottom, it had a thing that you were supposed to say that, to bring money into your life, right? And so that started triggering me like, okay, well, what other things do I want to bring into my life? What else do I want my life to include? What do I want my desired life to look like? And what characteristics are required for me to do that? And
Mm-hmm.
so I actually started taking, I went to a yoga class that was offered as part of a recovery program. And
Uh-huh.
so I enjoyed it. And there was like some meditation in there. And she was talking about a mantra as well. And so I'm putting the happy pocket full of money together with the yoga, together with my desired life. And I'm, as we're meditating, it's kind of like, and then she started talking about, doing things where you touch your fingers, right? Where you're actually sitting and meditating. And so that required four. So at first I had like three of them. And then
Mm-hmm.
I was happy, healthy, wealthy. And then I added abundant because that was kind of a catch-all, right? And that was
Right.
my fourth finger. As you take as you're meditating, you're supposed to take your finger and your thumb, and then as you say, I am happy, then you slide down to I am healthy, I am well. It's just kind of a routine in yoga that was taught to me. And I needed one for the fourth, so I did abundant. And then afterwards, I'm like, well, abundance a catch-all, but it's not really specific enough for me. So I kept it, but then I said, it's important for me to be grateful. It's
Yes.
important for me to, and to go with that. I did generous because I've always enjoyed helping others and giving to others. And I really truly believe that's part of my why is
Yeah.
I want to leave this place a better place than when I found it, right? I want
Yeah.
there to be some benefit because I was here. And so then I did that. And then I expanded that to include intelligent as I got into learning more and wanting to learn and realizing that was a core thing. And then successful. And then my last one is for me, I am sober because without that, the rest of this falls to the ground, right? So I have to
Right.
remind myself that that's an important thing for me. And, that's how I came up with it. And so every day I sit, I meditate, I find quiet, and I tell myself those things, right? Because it's important. What am I telling myself about myself?
Mm-hmm.
And not only do I do that, I'm actually getting into a little bit about my next book, which I said I was only going to do one, but then people were like, okay,
Oh.
so I figured out how to do this life, right? How to ignite my life. How do I
Mm-hmm.
keep it lit? How do
Right.
I how do I keep it lit? So staying lit, look for it Q4 this year. It's at the editors right now. But
Okay.
staying lit, which is some of the tips that we're talking about here is how do I make sure that I do these things and keep doing these things? And so I take the time every day in this meditation to make sure that I'm telling myself all these things repeatedly. And then I visualize it, right? It's not enough just to say I'm happy. Why am I happy? I visualize one or two things that help because I'm a big believer in confirmation bias, right?
Yeah.
There is evidence out there to prove anything and everything. Do you want to find the evidence that proves what you're saying to yourself is right, or do you want to try and be a naysayer and prove yourself wrong?
Yeah.
So when I say I'm happy, I think about the fact that I'm going to see my son tomorrow, visit him while he's at college. We're going to a Michigan State basketball game tonight, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I get to do that. That makes me happy, right? I work from home. That makes me happy.
Right.
I'm healthy. I did my exercise today. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I did my push-ups. I did and I think about those things. And to me, that proves that what I'm telling myself is true.
Yeah.
And so that's how that has kind of evolved and continues to evolve. Because when I first did the meditation, it was very limited, and it didn't provide that confirmation bias element of citing specific evidence of why these things are true. And so it,
Mm-hmm.
it continues to evolve. And I don't know what, maybe tomorrow I'll wake up and there'll be some other great idea, but I know that works for me. And my life has gotten continually better as I've practiced these things that I tell other people to practice.
I love that. Man, I think that's so true, and I can't wait to read that book too because it's going to be a good one, I'm sure. One other thing that you had, for multiple reasons, on your climb out, you were a caddy, you were caddying for golf. And when I really started to think about that, I thought, man, I wish that I would have had that idea when I was in certain places in my life, that I would have done that. And here's the reasons that I would have done it, for reasons why. I feel that proximity is power. Like, you've got to be around higher performance people. You have to be around people that want to level up, people that want to be more. And I know I play golf a little bit myself, and it is a hard sport. And the guys that are really good at it, I feel, are very high performance people. Like, they really focus. Their health is right. They keep things. They keep a daily discipline on practice and certain things. And you being a caddy not only helped you money wise, but it put you around a high performance person, and it gave you the exercise that you were looking for. So, man, I uber smart.
Well, I kind of stumbled into it because I was sitting there talking to some friends, and by coincidence, the guy who I was talking to that I caddy with is by no means sober, but he was saying, "Well, you need to make a few extra bucks. It's good exercise. It'll take and fill up some of your time because when your business is down, there's only so much you can do at that time. You need a break from it. You don't need to put the pressure on yourself." So it gave me that break.
Mm-hmm.
It helped me clear my mind. And I got to talk to people who were successful in business, right? You're caddying for these people at a country club. They are paying big money to be there because their businesses are good. So
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed talking about business. And there is nothing a successful businessman likes talking about more than how he turned around the company and made it a success. So when I would ask, they were very free with telling stories about what they went through. And so I learned lessons there. So really, it was a financial help. It was a spiritual help because I'm out there in nature. It was a helped my time. I learned from it. I got healthier from it. I mean, there was so much benefit from it that there's days I miss it because it's just not you know feasible for me to do it these days.
Right.
Um, but it was a great experience.
Yeah, I can imagine. When I was reading that, I actually put the book down on my lap, and I was like, man, what a great idea. And often you get asked the question, like somebody on Facebook or somebody in a conference or something, they said, Eddie, what would you do? Or Kevin, what would you do if you lost everything? Like, you lost it all and you had to start over. What job would you get, or what would you do? And there's a lot of ways to answer it. But if I didn't have the education yet, or I was lacking confidence, I'd go be a caddy, because you were so right. Because he's going to love to tell you on how he turned around his business. And you're going to learn so much. And most likely, they might even get a liking to you and say, I don't know what you're wanting to get into, but I can help you. You
Right.
know,
There was actually one contact I made that was in the same general field that I am, and we've actually talked several times since I've left the caddying game and all that, and his company continues to grow and be successful. Um, you know, he had some great lessons, and I took them to heart because you want to learn from people that are showing you that they've done it right.
yeah,
And these were guys that were, I mean, a couple of these guys had their own private jets,
yeah,
not like a two-seater thing, but like one where, hey, my pilot's up there and wants to leave, let's go, type of thing.
yeah.
So, you want to learn from those guys I love sayings because some of them just stick with me. Success leaves clues.
It does.
And so if I can learn from these successful people, they're giving me clues. I want to follow it. I want to
Yeah.
learn from them.
And one of my best and greatest mentors told me exactly that. He said, Eddie, follow the money, success leaves clues, and you will figure it out. You're a smart man.
Yeah.
And just continue to do that. Follow the money, and success leaves clues. He used to repeat that all the time.
Yeah.
And one of the other ones that he gave me was, he asked me the question. And I feel like that I like to also take this platform to ask other people the question, because it was life-changing for me because it got me to think. We all stand in front of the mirror and we say, man, what would it be like if, or what would it be like if I didn't have a job? Or, we tell ourselves these things, but when someone else asks you, it's a whole different meaning. So for instance, in my 30s, he asked me, he said, Eddie, what is Eddie Austin capable of if he didn't have a job? Now, I was running my own business in the afternoons and I had a job. And he seen something in me and he goes, Eddie, what are you capable of if you didn't have a job? Like if you weren't spending 40 plus hours a week burning down the best of you, what could you be capable of?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the longest 45 minutes home because, man, it really made me think. Like I really started to think. I was like, man, what am I capable of? What could I be? What could I do? Could I author a book? Could I write 2 books? All these things start to come to mind and the flood happens. And I think people need that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you're right. And honestly, I don't have a job. I
Right.
really,
But you do what you love.
I do what I love. I love what I do. I have a lot of different things going on. I'm running a business. I'm writing books. I'm helping guys, with their sobriety and advice and, all those things. So yeah, I really don't have a job. And,
Right.
it's a great place to be.
Yeah. Because, you made a choice at one time to leave something you probably disliked or, didn't get the best of you. Maybe that was even the reason that got you into some of your bad habits was because you weren't focused on what you were passionate about. You were probably just passing the time, watching the clock, going home, aggravated, everything else, like things weren't going well. And rather than having the education probably at the time to change that, you went down the wrong road. I think we all have. I can admit it, I've went down the wrong road before, but it was because I was not doing what filled me up. And at that point, it took a long time to sabotage myself, leave a trail behind me that I wasn't proud of, and then to turn it all around and then go, this is it. And now today, like you, we don't have a job. We do what we love. We do what we're passionate about, and we don't need any other devices, to help pass the time for say, or to temporarily fill us up or make us feel happy about things. So I got to say, man, I'm really proud of what you've done, and especially writing this book because there's just so many good things in it, and it came from an amazing individual like yourself.
I appreciate that, Eddie. And you touched on some of the stuff that's in staying lit, right? It's what do you do when you do go down the wrong road?
Mm-hmm.
And we put tools in there to say, catch yourself before you go too far down the road. Catch
Yeah,
yourself before that possible detour takes you too far out of, your way. Detours are okay. Sometimes you learn a lot from detours, right?
yeah,
Can be a blessing if you let them. But if you stay on that route too far, like I live in Cleveland, if I want to go to Chicago, but I start driving south towards Columbus, I'm probably going the wrong way. But the sooner I catch it, the sooner I'm going to get to where I want to get to with minimal disruption.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, also, I think so many of us lack manifesting our destination or, what is this desired life or the desired end goal? Like, where do you want to go? And then there's a roadmap that can be built and it can be put together. And yeah, you're probably going to avoid, if the why is big enough, you'll probably avoid a lot of the detours, or you won't have time because you're going to be crossing tasks off to get to this desire you have to get to the other side of where you really want to go. And I know I've had some great conversations with people around the manifesting, figuring out what you really want in life and really going for that. And I think that all of us should really think about that. Is it working for 50 years to retire at, X number of years, or is it to do certain things to get yourself to a place you can retire and help other people? all of us have different dreams and goals.
Yeah, well, it's funny. So it's the question becomes, do your habits drive the life you're going to live, or does your desired life drive the habits you have? And
Yeah.
I prefer to start with what's my desired life? What habits? I've got this thing where it's like a habit audit, right? What are the things? So I take a sheet of paper, and when faced with a big decision, sometimes I'll take that sheet of paper and I'll write happy, healthy, wealthy, all those elements of my mantra on the one side, and then I'll ask myself, does this help or hurt this?
Mm-hmm.
Those particular goals, and if they hurt them, then that's going to take me away from living my desired life. I did
Yeah.
this not too long with a relationship, not too long ago with a relationship issue. It was like, okay, this person, because of who they are, am I interested in this person because it's somebody, or am I really interested in that person, and we're going to have the same desired life and want to live that same desired life and help each other along the way, support that desired life. And it's a good tool to use when making a big decision. And
Yeah.
it's funny you mentioned retirement. My son asked me not too long ago. He's a sophomore in college. He's like, Dad, when are you going to retire? I'm not going to retire. He
Yeah.
goes, what do you mean you're not going to
I'm
retire?
retired.
Because he's looking at the business, right? Being like, oh,
Yeah.
I can take it over and all that.
Yeah.
I'm like, Jack, I'm not going to retire. I mean, I want to at least every day, work some, because
Mm-hmm.
it's not work. It's business. I said, don't worry, there's still room for you here, but
Yeah.
I'm not turning the keys over,
Right.
just. And he's like, all right, all right.
Right.
So
Right. Right.
yeah,
No.
because people used to think about what can I do to retire, and I go on LinkedIn and I see all these people retired, 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 happily retired, and I'm like, I'm not retired and I'm happy, right? I'm
Yeah.
happily living my desired life.
Yeah.
It's just a perspective. Those people had jobs. I
Right.
don't have a job. I don't work
Right.
for a living. I live.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's great. No, I touched on that one, the manifesting, the version of that, because you have that in the back of this book where you actually, list the things out and how you put that together. And I felt like that was really helpful. And that is when I decided to take my time and write down the certain, like, my daily practices, and then these certain desired things, and then how does that line up with where I'm really going? Like, am I truly aligned in this direction that I'm trying to go? And by doing that, it really made it clear that there was certain things I was doing that wasn't going to get me or didn't support certain habits of where I needed to go. So I had to let go of some things and do things differently. But through that, that practice, I was really able to hone in on, what is really needing to go on here? What do I need to tell myself every day? And what do I need to do every day to make sure I'm getting this done? Does it need to be put on my calendar? Does there need to be an accountability checkbox, or do I need to write it down so I can draw a line through it at certain times of the day? So that was extremely helpful.
Good.
Um, where can people go buy your book?
It's on Amazon.
Okay.
We also have links to it on the website, which is www.changeyourthinkingigniteyourlife.com. Pretty
Okay.
long, but pretty accurate.
Yep.
And I've actually got a blog on there as well. So if they go there and they see a blog, and also my contact information's on there. So if they want to ask me a question, I answer questions all the time.
Okay.
Um, the blog's a little dated now because I got so into finishing Staying Lit that
Yep.
I got away. It's hard to write the blog for me and the Staying Lit because I got to remember, am I talking about, Ignite, or am I talking about Staying Lit? And so I need to get back to that while the book is at the editor's um,
Yeah.
getting the little once over there.
Yeah. So, yeah, definitely strike while the iron's hot, without a doubt. But man, again, I cannot thank you enough for the book. I can't thank you enough for this time here spent with me. And I if the audience here today, if you can do one thing, please go follow Kevin, go download or buy his book. I know there's an audio version coming out too,
It's
or it
out.
has. It's out.
Audible.
Good,
It's available on Audible as well. Yeah.
good, good. Yeah, I know sometimes, when I was traveling a ton, I would do audiobook after audiobook. I wouldn't listen to the radio. I didn't care to. I wanted to hear something that was going to educate me.
Yep. Well, we talked about that before we jumped on air. There's some of the advice I've given to some of my guys recently, and I've got one guy who now is, listening to positive things on his way to work. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a little habit, but it has paid off exponentially for him. He has learned so
Yeah.
much about managing money and all these other things that he thanks me all the time for turning him on to that service that does that. So
Yeah.
it's just an awesome, there's time out there. Am I better off sitting there playing Candy Crush or listening to a Audible?
Yeah.
I will. The downside to Audible is people aren't all that happy when you try and autograph it on their phone as much as they are with the book. you know
Right. That's for sure. Oh man. Well, thank you so much. We went over how they can get in touch with you and go on your website. If you don't mind, just tell people again where to get the book and the website, and then we'll wrap things up.
Yeah, I'm on Amazon. I think Barnes and Noble, but also Change Your Thinking, IgniteYourLife.com.
Okay.
There's links to the book to buy the book on there. There's a blog and my contact information, and yeah,
Awesome.
appreciate it, and thank you, Eddie, because I mean this was thoroughly one of those things that I looked at my schedule and it was like, help me live in gratitude, because I was truly looking forward to just catching up with you and talking, because I always walk away positive, right? Whenever
Yeah.
you and I talk, it's always upbeat, positive, grateful, feeling good, and definitely a contribution towards my positive momentum for the day. So, man, I appreciate the opportunity to catch up with you.
Well, likewise, all the time, man, all the time. So, audience, please, if you do anything, please like and subscribe and share this with someone else that needs to hear it. And just do one thing for me, just one thing. And anybody that knows who I am, what I do, I love the word extraordinary. And do one thing. Don't be ordinary, be extraordinary. Go out here and do amazing things and leave the world a better place than you found it. And those are Kevin's words. So thank you, and we'll see you next time.